Welcome back, everyone, to the show. DK Metcalf, he is on the trade block, officially asking for a trade away from Seattle yesterday. We're going to get into all the fundamentals. What does that mean for the team? What is the potential asking price? What could the Seahawks, what could they expect to get back for a guy like DK Metcalf, who is really, really good, but also coming off of a down year, and he is owed a lot of money for next year. So that's what we're going to be talking about today, guys. Welcome back to the show. Glad to see you here. Yeah, the Seahawks asking price for DK Metcalf is reportedly a first-round pick and a third-round pick. And personally, guys, I just do not see this happening. Obviously, I understand shooting for the stars. I understand that you might as well set a high asking price to begin. But this is a really, really high bar. A first and a third? Thinking about where other receivers have gone. Deebo Samuel just got traded for a fifth-round pick, right? During the season, Davante Adams, who I think has had a better career than Metcalf, he got traded for a third-round pick. So the argument for DK is, well, he is better than those players right now. He is in his prime. Deebo and Davante Adams were not in their prime. That's true. But also, they all were owed a lot of money. So I think potentially where DK actually could benefit is that he's not owed a ton of future assets, right? DK is owed for next year. He's going to be owed quite a bit of money, over $20 million. But looking long-term into the future, he only has one more year in his contract. So the team that trades for DK Metcalf gets him for 1 year at a decent price. Whereas for Davante Adams, it was you're trading for him for 1 year, but you also have to pay him for future years. And now the Jets, they obviously have released him, so they're now having to pay Davante Adams to not play. They had to buy out the rest of his contract. So that is kind of the downside of having multiple years. So in a weird way, I think DK might benefit from the fact that he does only have one more year on his contract. I still don't think he's worth a first-round pick in the eyes of most teams. I think probably, realistically, the Seahawks will probably end up getting a second-round pick. I think that's where this thing is headed. Yeah, I would just, like I said, I'd be shocked if they could really kind of find a way to get a first-round pick out of all this. Now, maybe I'm totally off. I hope I am. I hope I'm totally off. I hope that they can finagle a way to get a first-round pick. The first and the third is insane. There's no way they're getting that. I just don't see it. Obviously, the Packers, apparently the Seahawks asked the Packers for a first-round pick and Dontavian Wicks, and the Packers didn't want to give that up. So we'll see what happens. But I also think that because Seattle doesn't really have the leverage here anymore. Now that teams know that DK wants out, that also plays into things as well. My guess is that they will not be able to get that first-round pick that they are seeking, but I hope they do. And yeah, there's no reason to not ask for a first-round pick. There's no reason to not set the price there. And then if the price ends up having to go down, then so be it. But you might as well set the initial asking price at that first-round pick. I'm okay with that, yeah. But yeah, I mean, this is not. I hate to maybe sound like a pessimist. This is not first-round pick worthy player. 5 touchdowns last year, 992 yards. He did have 15 yards per reception, which is pretty good. But 263 yards after the catch, 66 receptions. He missed some games due to injury. He had a couple of angry outbursts that got him some unnecessary roughness penalties that really kind of hurt the team. This feels more like a guy who could go for a second or a third, not a first. But what do I know? Let's talk about some potential trade partners. The Packers, Patriots, and Raiders are among possible trade partners. The Packers, obviously, we've talked about them before. We're going to continue talking about them. That's probably the favorite, I think, to trade for him at this point, just because we know that there have been conversations. We know that Schneider has picked up the phone with Green Bay. He does have a connection there. The Packers do have a lot of young, talented receivers that they could offer us, in which case that would really help us, to get one of the Packers' young, talented receivers. Yeah, I'd be down for that. I would love to have Dontavian Wicks on this team, or Christian Watson, or even Romeo Doubs, who Romeo Doubs has had his ups and downs, but I think he's still a very talented receiver by all means. And the Packers also have, they at least said they might be interested. Although, again, when the Seahawks asked for the number 23 pick, the Packers apparently did not want to give that up. So that's obviously worth watching. But, Green Bay would make some sense. They do need a receiver. Because right now, Green Bay, where they're at, is they have 4 decent receivers, but they don't have that number 1 guy. They have Jaden Reed's pretty good, Christian Watson's pretty good, Wicks is pretty good, and Romeo Doubs, but they don't necessarily have that big-bodied, clear-cut number 1, and I think they want DK Metcalf to be that guy for them. They think Jordan Love would really benefit from that, and I think he probably would. New England, again, could be definitely a good option. The Patriots have not had a great receiver in a long time, really ever since Julian Edelman left. They've been struggling to find great receivers. They've tried it out with Kendrick Bourne, Jacoby Myers. It just never really has worked out for them. And they do have a young rookie quarterback going into year 2. I think Drake May would love to play with a guy that he can just throw the ball up and probably is going to catch it. That's one of the great things about DK Metcalf is he's a guy who can make those contested catches better than anybody else. He's probably, among contested catches, he's probably a top 5 receiver. He can just get up there. He's just so big and strong. So that really would help, I think, and to give a young quarterback like Drake May a wide receiver like DK Metcalf would be massive. So yeah, I could see the Patriots as a possibility. The problem there is DK has done interviews and basically said he doesn't want to play in New England. So we'll see. The Raiders are another possible trade partner. Obviously, the logic there very, very clear. Pete Carroll used to coach DK up in Seattle. He loved DK Metcalf, and he may want to go out and acquire him. I think for the Raiders, the problem is they don't have a quarterback yet, so I don't think that they are going to, go after DK until they get that quarterback situation figured out. Who knows? Could Russell Wilson and DK Metcalf reunite in Las Vegas? For the hell of it, let's just bring in Bobby Wagner and Tyler Lockett too, right? That could be a weird but fun little scenario that Pete Carroll could try to pull off in Las Vegas. But personally, I think Pete Carroll is trying to turn a new leaf. I don't think he wants to just run it back with a lot of the same guys he had in Seattle. But you never know. Maybe he does. He did just ink Max Crosby to a $106 million contract that makes him the highest paid non-quarterback in the league. So he is doing stuff down there in Las Vegas for sure. Let's talk about how can Seattle replace Metcalf's production in 2025? Because obviously you're losing Tyler Lockett, you're losing DK Metcalf. This receiving core has gone from being really good to really kind of average to below average. I mean, you do have Jackson Smith and Jigba, but he can't carry the entire receiving core on his own. And I think JSN really benefited from having DK there to take some eyes off of him from the defense. So how are they going to replace his production, man? Because I'll tell you what, it's not going to be Jake Bobo and Cody White. That's for sure. Seattle's going to have to go out there and find some new wide receivers. And I think my guess is that they are going to have to draft someone, probably in the first or the second round. And we're going to start talking this week and up until the draft about potential wide receivers that could be on the board for Seattle. And there's a lot of them. There's a lot of great options. The big question is, do they dip into the first round pool? Because there's some really good first round talent, and at number 16, you could potentially get one of the best receivers in this draft. The question is that something they want to do only 2 years after using a first round pick on JSN? There are a lot of still holes on this team. Personally, I still think that the Seahawks should target offensive line in the first round, but it is true that they're going to need receiving. And if the right guy is available at number 16, I think it will be hard for the Seahawks to pass up. So I think the draft is probably how Seattle will replace Metcalf's production. We're going to be talking about exactly who that is in future videos, but that's all for today, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. This has been another episode of Seahawks Now. Comment down below, what do you want to get from DK Metcalf? Do you want a player back or do you want a draft pick? And if you do want a draft pick, do you think we can get a first-round pick or is a second-round pick more realistic? Let us know down below. Let us know your thoughts. We love to hear them. And as always, guys, until next time, go Seahawks.